The more ideas I come up with for this story, the more excited I am to write it. What about you? Has the pre-writing stage given you any ideas on what you want to do from here on? Well, you know what? Let's stop talking about it and let's write. Okay, once again, we are working on the 30-day story challenge, and based on the call for submissions by Hemelein Publications, called Dog Save the King. As I mentioned in a previous video, the beginning sets up the rest of the story. We have the who, the when, the where, the what, and the why. The work that I did during the pre-writing phase has already given me ideas on who I want in my story. But I still don't have names, and I don't have descriptions, and I don't have skills or background for them. That's where this comes in. We're going to talk about characters, and we're going to develop them, because that's probably one of the first things you want to do. Well, you should have an idea of what you want to write, and we got that in the pre-writing stage. But then after that, you really want to develop the characters, because as you develop characters, you are also developing the story. Even though this will feel like part of the pre-writing stage, I actually consider it part of the writing process. This is where my creative juices really get going, just like they are when I'm writing, because I'm thinking about the character and what the character is going to say, what the character is going to do, how to describe the character, and that's what I do while I'm writing. The main character for the story is a portal hound, and I thought about that, and as I did, I had some ideas kind of bouncing around inside my head. I had a little mini story going on where when the portal hound was younger, she would play, I don't know, tag or hide and seek or some sort of game with the queen, who I have not developed a name or anything for yet, but I will. And that the portal hound would create this little portal, come in from behind, and bite the queen in the butt. All right, nip the queen in the butt. And so then there comes my name. So the portal hound's name is going to be Nipper. And I like that name, and it already starts building parts of the story. When the readers realize that the character's name is Nipper, they're going to expect that there's a reason for it, and that there's going to be some action involved with that. They're going to be, hopefully, waiting for the scene where Nipper lives up to her name. So I've already started the crafting of the story and the building the excitement there and the anticipation. So names can be very important, and there's mine. So Nipper is the main character for this story. This is a subtle item, but I wanted to really kind of point out that even a little detail like the name of the character has an impact on the story. We need to have more than a name and the instinct to bite people in the rear. Even though Nipper is a highly intelligent dog, she still needs to act like a dog that we're familiar with and that we can recognize as a character. What I'm going to do is include a couple of traits that are common among dogs and include them in the story. Sort of a dog side view of the events. That way the story feels like it is from the perspective of a dog. In longer stories, I will give my important characters 3 traits. And this allows the characters to be different from one another. It also provides me with options and opportunities in any scene. I mean, so an event unfolds, and I can kind of look at those traits, and I can see if they give me any idea of how that character would react, or their attitude. I mean, anything. Are they afraid of that situation? Is it it doesn't matter one way or another, because not all traits are going to be affected in all situations. But these are going to be, okay, and because this is a shorter story, I'm only going to do 2. The first one is that I notice that often dogs will circle a couple of times before they lay down. All right, so I'm going to address that. Why does a genetically engineered dog, as a very smart one, circle? And I've decided that the answer for that is she is checking out the room. She's building a mental picture of where all the escape routes are, where all the places to hide, where in the room would be the best place to defend from, right? So when she lays down, if she's interrupted, boom, she automatically can react. She has a good idea where the opponents might already be and where she needs to position herself to protect the queen. So good. I've got that. And hopefully, after people read this story, when they see their own pet doing that, or I don't know, they watch a documentary and the dog does that on the documentary, they're like, oh, maybe that's what the dog is doing. And if so, I've I succeeded on stimulating their imagination and their thought process. So that's good. All right. And the second item, the second trait I've decided is the dog's tendency to want to sniff our personal regions. All right, in this case, Nipper is doing it to be able to detect enhancements, drugs, or boosters of any kind that eventually exit out through that region. And so hence the smell is stronger there. And those would be able to give Nipper an idea of which opponents might be physically boosted in some way or altered in a way that would make them dangerous opponents. So I like that concept, and it does make, it kind of elevates her traits. They're still dog traits, but now they're like kind of like super dog traits. So I'm liking that. Another thing that I want to do with Nipper and the characterization is to address her dog talk. She shouldn't talk like a human, even though she is smart. For a dog, she's still not a human. She doesn't really have the same level of language ability that humans do. So what I'll do is, in a lot of times, I'll just have a kind of a thought bubble going on with her, and I will keep it to like 2 words, 3 words, make it very short. And I'll give you an example of that. So when she is thinking about doing her teleportation, opening up a portal and teleporting to another location, she keeps it simple. Door, butt. Okay, so we can tell from that she plans to open up a portal and attack someone's butt. The butt's the target. It's a very simplistic language style, and like I said, there are going to be thought bubbles. Nipper doesn't actually talk. All right, so that's going to feel more like a dog. The readers are going to find it more believable that this is a story about a dog, as long as I make sure Nipper sounds like a dog when she has thoughts that are expressed. And actually, this is something I do with all my characters. I have differences in speech. One character might be very formal in their speech. Another one might have some sort of accent. Another one might mumble. Another one might have a tendency to use a certain phrase over and over, or a couple of phrases that are very common. That makes each of the characters more easily recognizable. You can start reading the story at any point, and when you get that, if the readers are familiar with the story and the characters, they're going to be able to say, oh, that's so-and-so speaking, because that immediately fits with what they know that character is about. So it's a good technique. And it also can lead to some plot building in cases. And if you really start investigating it, why does the character speak that way? And I'm sure you can come up with a background reason for that sort of speech pattern. And then there's opportunities, because that anything from the background is an opportunity to introduce a complication or an advantage, or whatever it is, a motivation into the story at present. Finally, I need to know what Nipper is going to look like. Is she a Chihuahua? No, she's not. A Chihuahua would be probably too small to be effectively a guardian for the queen. So what I did is I looked through some pictures of different dogs. I'm going to cycle through them now as I'm talking, and each of these dogs, when I look at them, I get a different sense of a personality. And that should be the same for you. Take a look at these pictures. Each of them is a different story because each of them suggests different personalities. This dog strikes me as a friendly and maybe even a slightly goofy dog. This dog looks like a great family dog who likes children. This dog takes life as it comes along, making him too laid back for my purposes. And then I came up to this picture. I decided to use our family dog as the base model for Nipper. Our family dog is an Australian Shepherd mix. She is friendly, she is energetic, and she is protective. Although this isn't a picture of our dog, it fits my needs. Allow me to introduce you to Nipper. As I write the story, I'll be looking at this picture for inspiration on how Nipper will act and react in the situations I invent. At this point, I have a strong understanding of my character. Hopefully you'll see, as I've gone through this process, how picking details here and there start to contribute to fleshing out a very complete character, one that's believable, one that feels real. And there's a lot more tricks that I have, but this is enough to get you started on that idea and be able to do a few of these on your own. I'm interested to find out what character you have come up with and which, if any of these, or if different tricks you've used to fully develop that character and how that influenced the story, the plot. I think this is enough to get me started. Wow, that was fun. Here's what I have so far. She could smell them before she could hear them. Nipper lifted her snout and sniffed twice more to make sure she had the right scent. Then she moved close to her human and offered a soft woof. As soon as McGee looked her direction, Nipper turned and pointed the direction of the threat with her snout. "What is it, girl?" asked McGee. "Police?" Nipper remained silent. "Regional Tax Authority?" asked McGee. Again, silence. "Royal Intelligence Agents?" Nipper growled, a low, nearly silent growl, to let McGee know the agents were close. The two of them needed to move if they wanted to escape an encounter with the tricky and dangerous humans. That's about half a page. You can read the actual text in the description below. So the first paragraph introduces Nipper and has her sniffing. So immediately we are going to hook the reader with that. At least that's my intention. They are not expecting that a story is going to start with someone sniffing and that they have a snout. That stands out. That's different. So the idea of being able to write a hook at the beginning of a story is to draw them in long enough for the story to actually grab their attention and for them to want to continue. And I believe that this does that for my story. The first paragraph also starts the characterization process. From it, we know that our main character has an advanced sense of smell and is female. The fact that the sense of smell is heightened falls into the rules of magic category. The rules of magic category. That's a term in writing that basically states that you need to introduce anything in your story that doesn't have a real world counterpart. I mean, if it's a fantasy element. So it doesn't mean it has to be magic. In a fantasy story, it probably would be magic. In a horror story, it might be werewolves, shapeshifters, vampires, something like that. In science fiction, it's pew-pew, space guns, or spaceships, or whatever. And in mysteries, it is a mystery. possibly a murder. It's meant to let the readers know what they can expect from the rest of the story. So that's what this does. The fact that our main character has an advanced sense of smell, that she can smell her opponents long before she can see them or hear them, that should tell us that we're already in a fantastical world setting, and we can expect more of that. So, mission accomplished there. Characterization already started. Mission accomplished there. And we also identified the main character. And you're like, how have you identified that this is the main character? Well, that's because the main character should be the first character the reader encounters when they're reading a story. And there's ways to get around that, but those are more advanced. And if you are kind of just starting out in your writing path, I suggest that you stick to that rule. Whoever your main character is, make that the first character the readers meet. So we have a main character. It's a she. We know the name. We know a lot about it. And also, this first paragraph has done a ton of stuff. Like I said, characterization, right? And the rules of magic and hooking the reader. So those are all things blended together in the same paragraph. And that is what you want to do with writing. Make your writing serve as many purposes as possible. And that's not just at the beginning, in the middle, at the end, all the time. If you have a scene, it's better if it has more than one purpose. Okay, so maybe it's a mystery and you're going to reveal a clue, okay? But don't stop at just that. While you're revealing a clue, can we see something that's going to develop a character or maybe build on a conflict, some tension that's already been there, right? You have a scene that does that, those two things, and maybe a third thing as well, then those are full scenes that are going to be very enjoyable. So let's get into the practice of doing that. What does this paragraph, what does this sentence do? And see if you can have it do multiple things. But don't go crazy with this. If your first sentence is 3 pages long, or your first paragraph is 3 pages long, I think you've gone a little too far. You've taken my advice beyond the limits of what it's meant to do. So a paragraph should be an average size paragraph. A sentence should be an average size sentence. And it does take some talent and experience, but you'll learn to be able to develop that. You'll be able to find sentences that can be rather brief and still hook people if you use the right elements. That's it for this episode, and trust me, I could have gone on for hours on this topic. What did you come up with? I'd love to hear the ideas that went through your head as you're working on the beginning, as you're working on developing character. What's your character's name? What's the background? How do these things affect your plot, if any, so far? Please post some comments in the comments section, or if you just have a question, go ahead and ask those. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have. Maybe you've got a start of an idea and you're not sure where to go with it. Well, let's talk about it. I do brainstorming all the time. I've got a friend of mine, and I often get stuck. And I go there and I talk to him, and just the process of being able to bat an idea back and forth frees my mind, and I get ideas, and then I go forward and I write and finish that story. So please, yes, participate. Let's talk about your story and how it's coming along. All right. Until next time, later.